don't know what to do. Rebecca asked me how she looked in that dress, and, well, she looked really fat. But can I tell my best friend that she looked really fat in her new favorite dress? Because surely if I tell her she looked fat in her new favorite dress, she's going to be really upset with me, and it'll probably ruin our friendship. But a true friend will always tell you the truth. So maybe she needs to hear the truth. I don't know. Do I risk telling her the truth and maybe she'll lose weight and she'll look better in the dress she wants to wear? Or do I lie to her and let her put on the dress and go in public and just embarrass the both of us? Because, I mean, goodness knows I don't want to be seen with that hot mess looking like that. I mean, I don't even know why I'm still friends with her, to be honest with you. But, I mean, that's besides the point. But I'm really torn. I don't know what to do. Maybe I should just go get it in a bigger size and switch out the tags. Decisions. Oh, hey guys. I forgot that y'all were coming over. Anyway, sorry. Miss Hardy here. This is going to be your first tutorial for Macbeth English 2. Wait, what? What was I? Yeah. I was just talking aloud to myself. I didn't realize no one was. Oh, you heard that? Okay. That was a soliloquy. Very good. Okay. So, can someone tell me what a soliloquy is? That's right. So, a soliloquy is when an actor is going to say their thoughts aloud on stage without an audience. In a play, there is an audience there, but in contrast to a monologue, there is no intended audience there. The actor or the character is just saying their thoughts aloud. So that is the major difference between a soliloquy and a monologue. And then, furthermore, we add in an aside, which we're going to see in the play. And an aside, the difference between an aside, a soliloquy, and a monologue is when an aside takes place, the character actually fills in the audience. He actually knows. He kind of like, hey, this is what's going down. But no one on stage knows what's going down. Just, us. Okay? So you might be wondering, Miss Hardy, why did you just tell us all that? And we haven't even talked about the play yet. Well, let's get down to business. Macbeth, Shakespeare, it's so awesome, it's so amazing, and I know that it's been a real struggle to get down to business, but I think we had a lot of fun today with that scavenger hunt, and I know it was more or less because it was a competition. But hey guys, all of life is a competition, and I want y'all to be winners, right? So we gotta get with it, okay? Macbeth is the shortest and probably the bloodiest play from Shakespeare. And before we get into all the details of it, who is this Shakespeare guy? I know this is the second play that y'all have read in your high school career officially. Hopefully some of y'all have read a whole bunch of them. Maybe, hey. But let's talk a little bit about Shakespeare first. Shakespeare, William Shakespeare, the Bard, is probably one of the most well-known playwrights in history. And what makes him so well-known is the fact that he was writing so long ago, and his work is still being taught today, and it's still useful today. And you may not agree with it, but the universal themes and all the lessons and everything that we learn from it is still relevant today, okay? So we have talked about the importance of historical context, and this is something we also talk about in my English 3 class. And what is historical context? Historical context is what is going on in the author's world that is influencing him to write what he is writing inside his work of literature. And Shakespeare wrote a little over 37 plays, I believe, and that's just the plays that he's credited for. He wrote also sonnets and poems and stuff like that. And he wrote during the reign of two rulers. It was Queen Elizabeth and King James. Now, he wrote the most during King James, and King James was a very big supporter of William Shakespeare, so much that he named Shakespeare's acting troupe the King's Men. And so you might be asking, okay, well, what does that have to do with the historical context? Well, they say that the tragedy of Macbeth is actually mirrored a little bit after the story of what was going on with King James and his family at the time. King James was struggling to find a place in the world for his family. There was a lot of strife going on within his family. He was trying to establish divine right, and so it was said that Shakespeare took some stuff from that and began to write Macbeth from that. Now, okay, so Shakespeare definitely paid homage to his king, King James I, by basing Macbeth off of in Scotland, because that's where James's lineage came from. And then furthermore, when the witches did their first prophecy, which we'll get into in a second, because that is a whole other bag of issues and another whole other theme that can be traced back to King James's claim to the great King Banquo. So that is just a little bit of historical context, and it's important to understand the relevance of historical context, because without historical context, sometimes we don't understand why people wrote what they wrote. And if we think about why, what people are writing right now, everyone at school is talking about Ebola. We're joking, but seriously, we can't walk down the halls right now without someone screaming, Ebola, Ebola. And if we would go and put some of our stuff in a time capsule right now and open it up 30, 40, 50, 60, 200 years from now, we would kind of maybe want to know why. Why did someone write a satirical piece about Ebola? And then we would look back in the history books and say, oh, okay, that year was the first case ever of Ebola in America. So if you can think about that and just understand, okay, that is what historical context is. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty with Macbeth. Macbeth is a story of greed, ambition, gender roles skewed, love, superstition, witchcraft, murder, violence, tragedy. It is awesome. It's really awesome. Okay, so let's go over a few of the main characters that we are going to meet in Act 1. First of all, it opens up on a day, and it's described. It is thunder, it's lightning, and we meet the witches, okay? And the three witches are also going to be called the Weird Sisters, and it's very important that you know that the three witches can also be known as the three Weird Sisters. I like to call them the Puppet Masters, and I've already called them that and referenced them as that a couple times in class, and we'll understand why more and more as we go through class, because we'll say, well, who's really responsible for all this chaos and who's really responsible for all this violence, okay? So when we first see the Weird Sisters, they are actually they're casting spells, and they're talking about how one sailor's wife wouldn't share her chestnuts, and they're about to slaughter, or they just slaughtered a swine, and then one of them had a sailor's thumb, and they're just doing what witches do, and being evil. One of them had called their familiar witches their not want to say pets, but their sidekicks, I guess, And then they talk about how Macbeth is going to be coming, and where we find out that Scotland had just won a war between Scotland and Norway. Okay, so here comes Macbeth with his dear friend Banquo, and we find out that they just won. Awesome. And the witches then basically say to them a prophecy. And what's a prophecy? It is part of a superstition, and we'll go over superstitions in a minute. But they basically say that this is going to happen in the future. Something is going to happen in the future, okay? So they say three things. First of all, that Macbeth, who is one of the most high-regarded, brave, valiant soldiers in King Duncan, that's the king at the time, King Duncan's army, he was currently the Thane of Glamis. He was going to become the king, the Thane of Cater. And then next, that Banquo, his friend, would never become king, but he would be the father of kings. And then lastly, Macbeth was going to become king. So, of course, they want to know, like, how do you know this? How do you have this information? Like, we want to know, okay? And then just as quickly as they said it and they wanted to know how they had the information, the witches disappeared, because that's the kind of stuff they do, right? Okay? So, of course, Banquo and Macbeth go back and forth over, well, that's impossible because there's already a Thane of Cater. And as soon as they say that, right after the witches disappear, the men from the army come and tell them what? That the current Thane of Cater was a traitor. He helped and informed rebels from the Norway army, and he was executed for treason. So just like that, Macbeth was made the Thane of Cater. And within minutes, the first prophecy was fulfilled. So by that happening, a little seed of just thought was planted in Macbeth's head, and he thinks, oh my goodness, what if all this is true? What if I'm supposed to be the next king? Okay? And that's all it took. That's all it took. So this now brings in one of the major themes, okay? Good versus evil. Ambition. Can someone have too much ambition? Okay? Because when the play starts, Macbeth is a very valiant, loyal man. And he never thought to do something as evil as killing the king. But as simple, as easy as it was just to tell him, hey, you're going to be king one day. And he's like, nah. Oh, this is going to happen. And one little thing happened. He thought, well, maybe I am supposed to be king. I mean, if that happened, surely the rest of it's going to happen. So the entire argument of which one's really true, fate or free will? Which one do you believe in, fate or free will? Do you believe in destiny? Do you believe in serendipity? So that's a lot going on there, huh, guys? A lot going on there. We are going to meet several players in this game, but there are a couple more major themes that I want to talk about before I let y'all go, because I know that we've been talking a lot, and I'm going to keep doing these tutorials because I think that it's going to help. Okay, gender roles, and Lady Macbeth, she is one bad mama jamma. Okay, she is definitely someone that we're going to call an anti-hero, and an anti-hero is someone who's like a protagonist. They are definitely driving the storyline forward, but they are doing a lot of bad things, but you can't help but kind of like them anyway. Current characters that you could relate to would be Walter White on Breaking Bad, Dexter Morgan on Dexter, people like that. They're anti-heroes, and we're going to discuss how Macbeth, if he is or if he is not a tragic hero, okay? So, Lady Macbeth, gender roles. When we keep talking about historical context, we have spoken about how much power women back then did or did not have, what their place was in society. And what we discussed was women really didn't have much power, especially if you were not, excuse me, the queen, or no, nobility. So when it came to the time for Macbeth to come home and tell his wife, or for his wife to find out all this stuff that was going on, and we're going to discuss further how she found out. The main thing that we need to realize is that he did not want to kill the king. But what did she do? How did she convince him that it was going to go down? She what? She challenged his manhood. She called him unmanly. Okay? And this isn't until a little bit later, but she says, unsex me now from toe to crown. And there's a very big misconception that she's talking, feel me now from toe to crown, she's talking about sex as in a sexual nature, but we forget that sex also refers to male or female, okay? And Lady Macbeth really struggles with the fact that she craves that power, and she wants to be able to have the control in that relationship. She wants to wear the pants, okay? And she manipulated him and pretty much shamed him into killing Duncan, if we're going to really simplify it. But this isn't the only time that gender roles or using masculinity is used this way in the play. Okay, whenever Macbeth mourns killing, mourns the death and mourns killing someone, Banquo tells them to man up, basically, okay? And there's several times where one character tells another one, why are you acting like this? This is not very manly of you, okay? So we look at it, and this is definitely Shakespeare's commentary on maybe the way things were back then, or, so how does this relate to now? What kind of connections can we make to current situations, So gender roles, they were definitely being challenged and reversed in Macbeth. Ambition, can you have too much ambition? Can ambition drive you to the point where you've gone too far? Fate versus free will. Do you believe that you have control over everything, or do you believe that your fate is predestined for you, even if you think that you're in control? Some other things that we're going to be noticing are, motifs, something that is continually appearing. It doesn't really happen too much in Act 1, but one of them is the weather that appears immediately in Act 1, with the hurly-burly weather, blood. This is Shakespeare's most violent play, so blood is definitely a reoccurring motif. Blood, weather, and then illusions. Okay, when I say illusions, I'm talking about we're seeing things, and that goes along with the supernatural, and that is with the witches, the witchcraft, the three weird sisters. Hecate, which is a character, she's a goddess who helps the sisters. Okay, so there is so much going on that creates an amazing dynamic. Okay, and I just hope that we don't let ourselves get bogged down, because the story and the lessons that we can learn are extremely relevant, and we can learn from, we can use them. So a couple things that I want to make sure y'all understand. We talked about the soliloquy. We talked about the aside. We talked about the monologue. We need to make sure that we know what a couple other literary devices are, okay? Our soliloquy assignment is due next week. Tomorrow, which would be Friday, the rough drafts are due because we're going to peer edit them. The final draft would be due Wednesday, but if you're going to be doing an assignment, or, well, I guess if you're going to be saying it in front of the class for the extra points, I need y'all to say that for on Tuesday, by Tuesday, so I can give you the credit, okay? But inside all of that, y'all are being asked to have 3 examples of alliteration. Now, what's alliteration? And everyone did pretty well with that. An example is Peter Piper pecked a pickled peppers, or is that, it's the repetition of the initial sound in front of the thing. So make sure y'all do that. And all of this is on my website, okay? You have to have 3 examples of antithesis. Now that's the one that everyone's kind of struggling with. Antithesis is basically 2 contrasting ideas put closely together in order to achieve a point, okay? So what would be, off the top of my head, I think, I don't know, the silence was deafening. Yeah. Love is a sure thing, but marriage is a real thing. Okay. So you're going to put 2 opposite contrasting ideas together to achieve a point. And we've been working on it in class, and I also have posted a link to a video on my website, and I also posted links to put the papers that have examples on there. So you have antithesis, you have alliteration, you have to write in free verse, which is actually pretty easy because all you have to do is not rhyme, no meter, okay? No kind of rhythm to it. Between 25 and 40 lines for your soliloquy. Y'all have to choose between the 5 moral dilemmas that you were given, okay? And so what I'm telling everyone is, imagine you have that angel and that devil. What are you going to do, okay? And then lastly, you need that extended metaphor. Now, when you use a metaphor, you are comparing the 2 things, okay? Now, how do you use an extended metaphor? Well, that is basically comparing the things throughout the entire passage. And you're not going to just keep saying, you are a lily, you are a flower, you are this. And the way that you achieve that is through your diction, and diction is your word choice. And by the way that you describe things through imagery, okay? And I know it sounds like a lot, but y'all are so much more intelligent than y'all give yourself credit for, okay? And we've been working on this. So those are the things that are required from that. The last 2 literary elements I want to review are the ones that we have gone over several times in class, and Macbeth is stock full of one of them. It is called a paradox. Can't believe I just sang. So what we said was a paradox and an oxymoron can get easily confused. What are the differences between an oxymoron and a paradox? Well, 2 main differences, right? Usually an oxymoron, not usually, an oxymoron is 2 contradicting words. So, for instance, it would be jumbo shrimp, okay? Whereas paradox is going to be several words together. And then the other main difference is that paradoxes can have some implied truth to it, and oxymorons cannot, okay? So, like I said, the oxymorons are 2 words or false, and the paradoxes can have some implied truth to them, and they definitely are much longer. So let me get an example for you real quick. And what we did in class was we talked about it in modern day examples, and I'll play music, of course. And we talked about you have to be cruel to be kind. Well, how is that possible? And kind of what I said earlier in my little soliloquy, and the students caught on to that. You know, maybe someone needs to hear the truth in order to better themselves. A true friend stabs you in the front. Oscar Wilde once said that. You know, one of our students, you know, actually two of the students in our class, you know, play volleyball, and so they talked about applying that on the court. You know, so cruel to be kind. Okay, but specifically in Macbeth, I'll give you one example, and we're gonna end it because this is long. One example of a paradox in Macbeth would be okay. So fair is foul and foul is fair, and that is the beginning of one of the first paradoxes in Macbeth. And basically, what the witches are referring to is that all the good in the play is about to turn bad, and all the bad in the play is about to, you know, turn the opposite, maybe. And it's kind of foreshadowing what all the bad stuff that's about to happen. And secondly, what it's referring to is that all the pretty things aren't, you know, all the things that look pretty aren't as what they seem. And maybe some of the things that are ugly, they might become fair. And when they say fair, it's referring to beautiful, okay? So are they referring to themselves? Maybe. Are they referring to the beautiful Lady Macbeth? Are they referring to the beautiful and virtuous nature of Macbeth himself? Who knows? I mean, I already told you, so you know. But that is the nature of a paradox, okay? It kind of contradicts itself, but there is some implied truth into it. It makes sense once you think about it, okay? So, backstabbing, betrayal, heartache, murder, lust, illusion, superstitions, all this and more next time on Macbeth, Act 2. Bye! Oh, I didn't press. Oh, that's embarrassing. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm getting punked.